With it being international break once again, I thought it was a perfect time to sit back and kind of dissect how the season is going so far under the reign of Thomas Frank. With me to do so, I've asked a few friends of the channel and some guests of HollieSpursTalk Live to answer a few of these questions. Those being the season so far, and are we performing where we potentially should be? Their thoughts on Frank, a player they think has improved under him, their standout player, and their prediction for the end of the season. Please make sure you like, share, comment and subscribe so you never miss a video. And without further ado, let's see what those guests think.
Season so far, I think we've had a lot of ups and downs, to be honest with you. I think away from home we've been phenomenal, but I think that's because Frank is so good at creating a counter-attacking team. And naturally, when you're away from home, you expect the other team to have more possession, so you've got more chances to get in behind them. Whereas at home, we've just looked dross like so much of this season. There's been a slight improvement the last couple of games, which is good. He's clocking on to what's wrong and is trying to fix it. But as of right now, at home, I think we're just playing far too safe. So I think the season, it's gone well, considering that we were 17th last year, to sort of be in and around like the top 4, top 5. I think is great, although I do believe we're the same points from Arsenal as we are from West Ham or whoever it is down near the relegation. So I think by Christmas we'll really know where teams are starting to settle in the Premier League. But I think it's definitely a better start than a lot of people expected, considering how bad last year was. But we can all tell that at home so much needs to improve. Frank as a manager, look, when Ange got sacked, I was a little bit gutted because I thought he deserved a chance after winning the Europa League, but that's been and done now. When it terms of getting the next manager, I really, really like Frank. I think he's been adaptable throughout his career, and he's been at Brentford for years. He's managed to form a relationship with the club. But what I liked from him is that when he was in the Champions League, they were playing more expansive football. They were more dominant. They scored a lot of goals. But when he came into the Premier League, he adapted very quickly and got them playing defensive football, 3 at the back, 5 at the back, because the main mission there was stay in the Premier League, become a stable Premier League side, and then grow. And then we saw that from last year. The amount of goals that Mbeumo, Wissa, Sade, they were all scoring, contributing, Damsgaard as well. He started to go a little bit more direct, and he started to be, 4 at the back. I think he progresses the team well, and I think as of now for Spurs, he's done a brilliant job at making us incredibly defensively solid this season for the most part. But it's just at home the attacking is lacking a little bit. But I think that's coming with time. Like I said, the last couple of games have improved a little bit. And whilst players like Xavi gets used to it, I think Odebear's going pretty well. Whilst these players sort of adapt and grow with the new signings, and Maddison returns, that's not until later in the year, but like Kulusevski returns, Solanke returns, I do honestly think we're going to get much better in that regard. So at the moment, I like what he's tweaking. I think he just needs to be a little bit more proactive when it comes to the home games. One player I think has improved under Frank. One player I think has improved. We've got so many new signings, so we're going to say he's improved. One player that I think has improved massively and people I don't think are giving enough credit for is Porro. He plays every minute of every game pretty much. It's only recently that we've started taking him off the last 10, 15 minutes or so towards a match, and that's because of a doggy returning. And I think what people aren't giving enough credit for is how much better he is defensively. It's not just about his returns going forward. We're seeing him actually sit a lot deeper. He's passing a lot deeper. He's not anywhere near as attacking as he was under Ange. And I think that's credit to Frank for making him a lot more solid defensively than he used to be. All right, and Mbeumo against Man United, he didn't have a good game, but that's one bad game in like tens now. So I think he's been really good under Frank and doesn't get enough credit that he deserves. Wow, standout players so far. There could be a few. I'm going to say Mickey van der Ven, and it's not recency bias. I think overall we've improved defensively massively. I've said it so far already. But, he's improved his attacking ability tenfold. I think when we first signed him, it was well reported that despite his size and his height, he is not very good aerially. That's whether that's defensive or attacking. That has completely changed this year under Frank. Frank has gotten him into the correct positions in the box for when we take corners, and he's pretty much our top goal scorer from these positions, and he's scoring in ways that he didn't do before. I mean, that run he did was just absolutely ridiculous against Copenhagen, but we've seen a run like that before against United away last year. But to actually score in the end of it is pretty incredible. But I think as well, he's had the captaincy armband a few times under Frank now, and I think when he has had that responsibility and that duty, you see him step up a level. And I think despite he's only 23, 24 years old, he's going to be world class in the future. But I think he's improved really well, despite already being a brilliant player. Prediction's tough because I think England are going to get the 5 places for Champions League. Can we get top 5? Look, Liverpool have fallen off the boil. I think Arsenal are looking incredible, unfortunately. So I think it's going to be between them and Man City for that top 2. Chelsea, again, I think they're having good games and bad games, but all in all, I think they're pretty much safe when it comes to that top 5. And then other teams, Newcastle aren't doing as well as they should be. Man United are there and thereabouts. Can I see them last in the whole season? I don't know. Realistically, look, top 5 is there. It is available. There are a lot of teams that were good last year that have completely fallen off this year. I don't think Bournemouth can last the whole season the way they've been playing because their football is just so chaotic and so front-footed that I think they're going to get injuries and it'll slow down like it did last year. But can I see us last in that season, the full season? I don't know. If I'm being completely honest, I think we're going to be sitting around the 6th or 7th mark. We won't win Champions League, but we'll definitely get through to the knockout stages. Hopefully we get a good cracking couple of games there. FA Cup, it's gutting that we had to play Newcastle away in the Carabao Cup because I think we could have done a good job there. It depends on who we get, but I think FA Cup, I could see us getting to quarters, semi-final. Not sure if we'll win a trophy this year, but I do think we'll get back into Europe 6th and above. Thanks for having me on.
I think all in all, it's been a pretty decent start for Thomas Frank. Look, the away form has been pretty much spot on in the league, top of the league there in the away form. The home form needs to improve, performances and wins, that's got to happen. So there's no doubt about that. In a decent league position, okay, getting knocked out of the Carabao Cup was disappointing, but they're doing all right in the Champions League as well. And I think it's difficult to judge completely when you've obviously lost Son, fine. But James Maddison being out for the majority of the season, at the very least, Dejan Kulusevski being out. So they're crying out for some creativity. So it's been a pretty decent start, and I'm sure there's more to come. Oh, from a professional level, it's been a real joy to get to know him over the last few months. I interviewed him many times at Brentford, but obviously with Spurs, it's on a more consistent basis. He's very engaging. He's a joy to listen to. Of course, he's very different to Ange, but I think all the managers Spurs have had are very different to each other. So, as I've said, I think so far so good, and I'm sure he would agree. There's a lot more to come. I think in terms of standout player, I'm tempted to say Mickey van der Ven. It's brilliant. He stayed fit. He scored one of the goals of the season, and for me, it's strange that he feels wasted as a centre half because of what he can do bombing forward. But I'm going to go for João Palhinha. It's been an absolutely brilliant loan signing, and for me, he's a real no-brainer to make it permanent. For me, end of the season prediction, it all depends on injuries and if they can maybe do one or two things in the transfer market. They should be going for that 5th spot, which should be a 5th Champions League spot. At the very least, should be from sort of 5th to 8th. I think they'd be disappointed with 8th, let's be honest. But top 6 and FA Cup. FA Cup. Come on, it's time. The FA Cup. This used to be Tottenham's Cup, and they need to get it back. It's been way too long. And to qualify in the Champions Leagues, at least through a playoff position.
Hey Hollie, hope you are well. Tottenham season so far then. I think it has been a very mixed bag, to be honest with you. Plenty of high moments, but also quite a few lows as well. I think we're performing probably where most of us would expect to be. We obviously finished 17th last season, and it's a big leap to go from that to challenging right at the top of the table. So to be in and around those Champions League places, to have a few hiccups along the way, I think most people would have predicted that at the start of the season. Of course, we all want more than that. We want to be doing better than we currently are, particularly with the home form being an issue. But I think if you were offered a European place at the end of the season, right now, you would probably take it. So I think it's pretty much on track, considering the injuries as well, for where we would think we would be in Thomas Frank's first season. And I think he's done a lot of good work. I think he has improved a good couple of players. The standout for me has been Pat Matasar. Obviously, he started the season on fire before he picked up that knock, and then maybe he struggled to get back into the team since then. But those first stretch of games under Frank, Papsar was Tottenham's best player. He was thriving. He was playing in that number 10 role before we signed Xavi Simons. He was scoring goals, assisting, that relentless running that we love so much from Tottenham players. I think he has really come on leaps and bounds, and I do hope that he's able to recapture that form as the season goes on, because we're going to need him. We're going to need his legs. And when he's at his best, he's a very, very good midfielder. So hopefully Frank can continue working with him on the training ground and improving him. I think away from that, the standout player for me has got to be Mohamed Kudus. I think it's a real toss-up between Mickey van der Ven and Kudus, but we know and knew what van der Ven could do. Obviously, he has stepped it up a level, but Kudus has the joint most take-ons in the Premier League so far this season, alongside Jeremy Docker, who's been fantastic for Manchester City. He's the joint top assister in the Premier League with 4 so far this season, and he's just added a new dimension, I think, to Tottenham's attack. So I don't think there's another answer for me other than Mohamed Kudus. Obviously, Paulinho has been a great addition to this team as well, but for me, Kudus is at that top of the ladder right this second. And between now and the end of the season, there's obviously a lot of football left to be played. Prediction is quite difficult to do because we've seen such a mixed bag from Spurs when it comes to playing the top teams around us, coming up against low blocks and mid blocks. It's been a bit of a struggle sometimes, but I do think we will be in and around those European places. Maybe not the Champions League, but I would like to say we'll finish in the Europa League places, so 5th or 6th, and I'm hoping we can give ourselves a good account of ourselves in the FA Cup, and who knows, maybe pick up another piece of silverware. Let's see.
What's going on, Hollie? It's Sonny from SonnyTalksSpurs, and you sent me a few questions about Spurs' season so far and life under Thomas Frank. So your first one is, are we performing where you thought we would be? No, I thought we would be doing a lot worse, and people might be surprised at that, but we are currently undefeated in the Champions League, and we're also about 5th in the Premier League. Had some really good results with Man City, had some not very good results with like Villa and Bournemouth at home, but I think at the moment we've got to realise Thomas Frank had a lot to fix. That defence, he now has to fix the attack. So I think he's doing quite a good job. I'm quite happy with Thomas Frank. And you said, what do I make of him as the second question? Pretty much the same. Like, I think he's great. I think he comes across really well in press conferences. I think he, is learning how to adapt with his side, learning what his best team is as well. And, Rome wasn't built in a day. It's a stereotypical saying, but I agree with this in regard to what Thomas Frank has to do at Tottenham Hotspur. One player I think has improved under Frank. That's a good question. I'd say, that is a tricky one. I'm trying to think. I guess Romero and Mickey van der Ven. I'd go with Romero because I think we all knew he had world-class capabilities, but giving him that armband as well has meant he has just taken on it to a new level. I really, really think he's been great. Stand-up player so far, I'd say Mohamed Kudus. I think he's looked like a really good signing. Only 1 goal, but a handful of assists as well. I think he looks like a really good creative output for Spurs. And my prediction for the end of the season, I think we're going to finish, I'll go with 7th. I think we'll finish 7th, and I think that'll be good enough in Frank's first season. And hopefully then make it to the knockouts of the Champions League as well. If we could win the FA Cup, that'd be quite nice, wouldn't it?
Hi Hollie, hope you're keeping well. Big thanks for this opportunity. I'm Harry Scarf, football content creator, YouTuber and football writer. I have my own channel, Harry Scarf, own Tottenham podcast too. So looking forward to answering these questions because I must admit they're tough. So firstly, you've asked about the season so far. Is it similar to what I expected? I'd say the season so far has been good overall. Don't get me wrong, there's been bumps in the road. I think we've still got a lot to improve on, in particular going forward. I think people forget we finished 17th in the Premier League last season. We shipped goals for fun. Literally was like a car crash defensively. And I don't get me wrong, I like Ange Postecoglou. We won the Europa League. People don't talk about it enough as well, but we got to the semi-final of the League Cup against Liverpool and actually won that first leg as well. So that idea we weren't competitive on more than one front, is simply false. Having said that, Frank's come in, clearly looked at our defence and gone, look, we need to start there. We need to stop conceding from set pieces, start scoring from set pieces and start shipping less goals and start keeping clean sheets. All 4 things Frank's come in and done. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm very, very happy. And that kind of moved me onto Thomas Frank. I think he's done very well. I think he's been a good appointment. Again, we haven't really seen, I said attack too much, but at the same time, we're missing, was it 85, 86 goal contributions from last year because we sold Son, Solanke's out injured, Madison's out injured, Kulusevski's out injured. We're missing all these goal contributions, and not being funny, and no disrespect to players like Richarlison, but if you happen to run them, then you've got a problem and you're not going to score goals. It's as simple as that. The injuries are creeping back in, but I think overall, if you'd ask me where Frank come in, where would I think we'd be? I'd probably say I reckon we'd be 7th or 8th going into that second international break. So some would argue just about maybe exceeding expectations, but overall I would say similar. One player that Frank's improved, this is interesting. I think Wilson Odebear's massively improved, but I can't really say him because he's only 20 years of age. Last season was out injured. He's definitely improved from last season to this, but I think it's mainly because the injury he got. I don't know if it's necessarily a Frank thing. I would say someone like Mohamed Kudus. I know, of course, it's a little bit cheating because he wasn't at the club previously. But if you look at West Ham, they couldn't really maximise the best out of him, whereas Frank has. I tell you what, the one I will decide on is Mickey van der Ven because, yes, he was class under Ange, but he's scoring more goals. And Frank's really explored that aerial presence, that physicality. And Van der Ven was always a threat, scoring goals with his foot and mainly defensively with his pace. But now Van der Ven's also scoring with his head. I think that solo run as well, although it's not with his head, it's not aerially, just shows the confidence in the player right now. I mean, Frank won't care if he gets blanked if he does that. Stand-up player, then, it would probably be someone like a Yarpolinia or Mohamed Kudus, as they've both been excellent signings. Kudus, I like, maybe holds them to the ball a little bit too long, so go on to Yarpolinia. Love them both, though, absolutely. And then the season prediction, then. I think we get to, somehow, the quarterfinals, here we are, of the Champions League. I'm going to be bold here. And I think we'll finish 7th in the Premier League, but of course I hope a little bit better. Frank's first season to be our lowest finish, I think, his time at the club. Come on, you Spurs, get behind the team and get behind Frank. Thanks, Hollie.
Hey, it's Marlon from SpursKingsTV, and Hollie has asked me a few questions about Tottenham that she'd like for me to answer. But the first one is, what do I make of Frank? And look, Frank was never my first choice, and was never his football at Brentford was never one that was for me. But I do understand that he's a very good manager. I think he will get it right. I don't think we'll get the football that everyone is expecting from him, but we will get it right at some point this season. And as you can tell by the away form, he seems to have that on lock. But the home form obviously is not just him, but his football probably won't help. But it's becoming a major issue for Spurs at the moment. But I see at some point this season that our home form will be great and our away form will be terrible. So it swings and roundabouts for me. But Frank, for me, is a good appointment for Spurs. It's just now the board need to back the manager. And when I speak back the manager, get him the players he wants. And when he's struggling a little bit, make sure that they keep the process and keep going like other, and you'll end up getting it right. The player that I think has improved under Frank, I said Pape Matar Sarr has improved the most. I know a lot of people have different questions. I think what's happened over the last few weeks with his injury, with what's been going on in his personal, I think he's not been up to scratch, but he has been the most improved. And in this system, it seems to work for him. He seems to thrive in a Frank system, and he seems to be pop up in the right places at the right time. And he's got the energy and the legs. He just needs to get hold of the ball a lot more and kind of work on his passing. A standout player for me so far this season, this difficult one, is probably going to be for me, it's probably Romero. I know a lot of people will sit there and say Van der Ven, Kudus and all that because of the performances. But when Romero has played, considering how he was before, and everyone said he's hot-headed and stuff, I think giving him the captaincy has really calmed him down. And I think his performances have been absolutely excellent this season. And I think we're starting to see Romero for Argentina, and the one we've all been complaining about. And my prediction for the end of the season, I think, I standardly think we should be getting top 6, even with the injuries that Thomas Frank's had and the way he's drilled the team. I think we should be getting top 6. And the way the season's panning out as well, I think a lot of the top teams are not performing. And it's there for us to take. So I think we should finish in the top 6. I don't think we'll finish with a trophy. I'll be honest. I just don't think that's in Frank's nature. As we've seen in the past, he's not really, he's not won anything. And if he's coming to a club that never win anything, it's not going to be a match made in heaven, is it? So we'll see how that one goes. But I think long term, I think Frank will be the answer as long as the board back him. But thanks, Hollie, for allowing me to take part. Make sure you subscribe and like to Hollie's channel. And if you like anything to Spurs Kings TV, do come over and support us as well.
Hello guys, Ricky Sachs here from the Last Word on Spurs. Hope you're keeping safe and well out there. So I've been asked to participate in yet another one of these Thomas Frank videos, and it's international break time, right? So what did I think Frank's remit was when coming in to the Spurs job? I mean, look, the reality is he was picking up a side that did finish 17th, but also just won a European trophy. So on that basis, I think there was a feeling that we had to somehow most certainly improve the league form, most certainly, but also ride still the wave of winning a European trophy and try and continue that winning feeling inside and around the football club. I think it's fair to say, as things are right now, I think there still needs to be some convincing that Thomas Frank is the right manager long term for Tottenham. But what you can't argue is from what we've seen so far is that the team, despite at times conceding a lot of shots on target, do look to some degree a lot more solid than last season structurally. I think it's fair to say that right now they would be arguably failing the eye test in certain games, but we are better, certainly from attacking set pieces for certain. Defensively, coming into this international break, we've conceded a number of goals recently from them, but I think overall there has been a marked improvement. So you'd have to say at the moment it's still a work in progress. You know, we've got the best away form in the league going into playing Arsenal at the Emirates, which won't be an easy game despite our great away form in the Premier League. And look, in terms of the home form, yeah, it's been nowhere near good enough, has it really? You know, just the one win at home in the Premier League against newly promoted Burnley. I think it's fair to say that Manchester United in some parts was a marked improvement, the way we fought back from a goal down, but unfortunately at the end couldn't see the game out, which would have been Frank's statement home win in the Premier League. So look, there's a lot of work to do, most certainly on the home form. That has to drastically improve, because I think that's the mark of any manager really in terms of the Premier League. And if the club are looking to push on and accelerate progress, you need to have strong home form. If we can maintain our away form, that would be great. I think there needs to be some form of expansion in terms of the brand of football. However, I would say at this stage, given the nature of the amount of forwards Tottenham have out, and again, the quality of forwards that he has around him at the moment, Frank, I think it's very hard to expect instant results, instant success. I'd say at the moment with regards to Tottenham, definitely there needs to be more convincing that long term this is right. But I think it'd be crazy right now to be panicking about Frank being the right man for Spurs. I don't think anyone can answer that question 17, 18 games in to the season. We're unbeaten in the Champions League. We're sitting positionally table-wise in a pretty decent place in terms of challenging, competing for a top four spot. I think the biggest problem is for a lot of Tottenham fans is that team at the top that we don't like to admit it, but that does get us down in terms of the way they've been performing and where they are in the league. So the next game, of course, is always the most important. It's a North London derby. It's away at Arsenal. We want a performance. We'd love a result for certain. It'd be great to see a Thomas Frank side go there with courage, with bravery, and to some degree, see if we can grind out a result at Arsenal, which would be superb. I think places like Stamford Bridge, the Emirates, Anfield, you know, to go there and get results would be great. I think there's a certain understanding about the way we're going to play at those kind of places. And likewise, the likes of Everton, Leeds, which have been good results on the road, and we've seen us really, at times, exploit weaknesses of teams of set-piece delivery, which has been good. But I think we want to see an involvement over the football. I think, again, I've made that clear that I think that will come in time, but it is patience. I know people don't want to have patience or hear about the word patience when we've just won a European trophy. The reality is, in terms of what Spurs can win this season, it is an FA Cup still available to them. Of course, depending on the draw, and again, fixtures around that time, it'd be interesting to see how Frank does obviously take on the competition. But look, I think where we are right now, positionally wise on the table, in a fairly good place, unbeaten in the Champions League. Let's remain optimistic for the season ahead. There's still a lot of excitement about what Tottenham can do. So look, I think the key thing now at the moment is patience, give the manager time, and I'm sure likewise we'll be back doing another one of these videos in the next international break, which I believe is in March. We'll have much more of an idea of what a Thomas Frank Tottenham is looking like. From me, guys, fingers crossed let's hope we've got a really good season in store. And thank you so much, as always, for having me on.
So there you have it. There's a lot of opinions in this video. Make sure you put yours in the comment section and hit that subscribe button. We'll be back next week for Hotspurs Live, where I'll have some guests on once again to hopefully talk about a successful North London derby and look ahead to that PSG game. Until next time, come on you Spurs.